Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you are listening to this latest edition of the Hormone Cafe. I am here today with long-term colleague and associate Samantha Dinnage. We have known each other since the corporate days of Toyota, and here we both are now very much firmly entrenched in the health and well-being space. Freudian slip there. And I wanted to invite Sam to come and talk to us today because Sam has not only developed an incredible yoga and Zumba and well-being business, and we've worked very closely today, and we've done some collaborative workshops in the past, bringing both of our sort of passions together. But more recently, Sam has really got into the beautiful holistic aspects of Aryuveda, and hopefully I've pronounced that properly, Sam.
Yeah, that's good.
And I thought it'd be really interesting in this episode to invite Sam to talk to us about another way that we can support our health and well-being, because as you know, for me, one of the key principles or raison d'etre of the Hormone Cafe is to show and showcase all the different ways that we can support our health and well-being so that we can have happier and healthier hormones and improve perimenopause and really flourish through our menopause and beyond. So maybe, Sam, you could talk by just telling us a little bit, if there's anything else you want to share in your introduction, but maybe just a little bit more about why Aryuveda, how you got into it, and how you're using it with your clients.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. So Ayurveda is the sister science to yoga. So I had a number of health issues. If I rewind a little bit, I was suffering with terrible digestion, and I had lots of migraines. I had really terrible anxiety. I had depression. And I'd also literally just shut down from my emotions so much that I'd just lose my voice for a period of time. So I wasn't in a particularly good place. And I started some CBT, some cognitive behavioural therapy. I went to see a speech and language therapist. And it was actually the speech and language therapist that recommended to me that I start yoga. So at the time, I was into Zumba and kind of boxing type things, the energetic moving about. So I thought, oh God, yoga might be a little bit boring. It might be a little bit slow. Not sure I'm going to like it. So it took me a few weeks, if not months, to kind of think, okay, I'm going to give it a try. Might as well. So I went along to my first yoga class full of many worries, thinking, what if I get an injury? Am I going to get a headache? Just so many worries racing through my mind. And I turned up and I did find it quite slow and difficult, especially when my mind was just racing away, Mary. But I then, after a few sessions, started to really love it because I just found that I felt so much better. It really started to help to calm my mind, to ease out aches and pains. I found I was sleeping a lot better because my body wasn't hurting so much in the night. And then I also started to come off of my migraine tablets that I was taking every day after doing yoga for about 6 months. I mean, I wasn't going to one class a week. I was going to a couple of classes, plus I was doing some at home because I had the time then to fortunately be able to do that. So I think that was really the kickstart into the world of holistic health and how much of a powerful impact these kind of things can really have on our body and mind. And then there's so many different kinds of tools that we can utilize. So I've trained in traditional Chinese medicine, particularly in relation to yin yoga. You know, I've done lots of different trainings and courses and things and own readings, but sometimes the information can just get too overwhelming when there's too many different models to follow. So I guess my approach was, okay, which one of these resonates with me the most? And then that's the one I'm going to follow. And that's when I got into really diving deeper in Ayurveda. And again, by, I think, like the yoga, practically doing it myself and feeling the benefits, starting to make those adaptations just gradually in my own life and feeling the benefits helped me to feel more confident that yes, this is the way for me personally to move forwards, and other people that are interested in this ancient system from India that's been around for thousands of years. It's not some fad,
Yeah.
but it's still so relevant to today as well, and the hectic lifestyles that we often lead.
And I think you've made a really, really valid point there, Sam, and probably the same for me and some of our other, colleagues, friends, and associates, is we've gathered up so much information, but there comes a point where, and I certainly know for myself, I got to a point where I was so overwhelmed, I wasn't applying any of it because I was getting such conflicting information, or that was bumping up against that. And I love the fact that you said that you just sort of took a breath and sat back and said, which is the one thing that I'm going to focus on, and which is the one thing that resonates with me, and sort of almost like your values and belief systems. Because I know, as someone who not only teaches but practices yoga, that's very much a lifestyle, isn't it? It becomes sort of who you are and how you show up in the world. And so I'm loving that, and I think that's something for everyone to remember, is sometimes we just need to take a step back and think, what's resonating with me the most? Now, that doesn't mean it won't change later on, but I think even that as a takeaway, for anybody that's listening to this thinking, I'm getting this information and that person is saying that, and that influencer's saying that, and then my guru's saying that, and my yoga teachers, it's like, okay, just almost mindful, isn't it? Calm the noise and really tune in to what it is that works for you. So I know, because you've got clients later on today, what is Ayurveda? I know you've said it's an ancient practice, it's been around for thousands of years, but what is it?
So Ayurveda is the science of life. So it offers a way of living in tune with nature. So we're following the natural rhythms of the day, of the seasons. And whereas I think a lot of people perhaps practice yoga because they want to feel healthier, actually the goal of yoga in a traditional sense is to reach enlightenment or bliss. Whereas actually it's the goal of Ayurveda that's here to create this world of health for us, whatever that looks like for us as an individual. So on a practical level, Ayurveda looks at a number of different pathways. So it looks at food, so looking at the nutrition. It looks at food in quite a different way to probably the way people are used to thinking about fats and calories and this kind of thing, because it has a 6 taste principle. So just some examples, it might be the sweet, sour and salty tastes. So when we look at those 6 tastes, in order to feel more balanced, we need a mix of them all, but depending on our health conditions, we might need to eat more of those 6 tastes to feel more balanced and reduce heartburn, for example, or hot flushes that maybe we'll come on to. And then from food, we can also look at movement. So that might be yoga, but yoga's not everyone's cup of tea. And it's about doing things that we enjoy and what are going to feel nourishing. So it might be something else like playing netball, or, going to some other kind of dance or whatever. But movement, as humans, we're designed to move and not sit down for hours on end. So it's thinking, what movement can we incorporate that's going to help the person to feel good? And yoga, everyone might think, oh yeah, yoga's really good for me, but actually if you're someone who's really competitive, is pushing and striving all of the time and has got hot flushes, then doing something like hot yoga or a dynamic yoga class where it's go 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 and you're just building more heat isn't necessarily going to make you feel better. So it's actually within yoga, we can even think, what kind of yoga practice would suit that individual to help bring them more balance from the inside out.
Yeah. I'm just smiling as I'm thinking, like, even when you said in your introduction, you know, taking that alpha type, highly competitive, and saying, you just need some
Yes, just slow
yin.
down.
Yeah, absolutely. No, fantastic. So you touched there a little bit. So there's these different, so that was interesting straight away. There's sort of like the 6 pillars, and, you know, sort of tweaking and tuning, and, you know, you might need more sweet, might need more salt. You talked there a little bit about sort of hot flushes and hormonal health, and without sort of giving it the sort of pill for every ill, you know, one of the sort of principles or ways I look at life, and certainly I've noticed on my own body, is when I get stressed or overwhelmed, all of a sudden then some of these symptoms can get a little bit worse. So how does Ayurveda support with stress, which I think for a lot of us is still is very much a big thing?
Yeah, so stress I think is really interesting, Mary, and you obviously touch a lot on your cafe in terms of
Yeah.
hormones as well. So I think, you know, stress can be one of the major factors, can't it, in throwing the hormones out of balance. About adrenaline, thinking about cortisol, and thinking about then the nervous system and it moving into a state of fight or flight. But sometimes the rapid heartbeat, the body temperature might be higher, the muscles might be feeling more tense. So when we're talking about the nervous system, this links in with Vata, which is one of the 3 doshas in Ayurveda, or the 3 mind body types. So we've got Vata, Pitta and Kapha. So Vata is what the nervous system falls under. So when we're in this fight or flight response, that often some of us are in a lot of the time, and it's fine for us when it's there a little bit. We want some adrenaline to go and run a race or do a great interview or be fab in a presentation, but running on that all of the time creates that wear and tear in the body. So what Ayurveda says is, in order to balance that, we need to have a look at the stresses in your life. So balancing Vata is a good place to start. Obviously, it depends on the person in front of you. For me, you know, if I was coaching somebody, it's okay, what's the whole picture with that person? But from a simplistic point of view, we want to balance Vata dosha. And Ayurveda has a 5-element theory. So I know you like the elements, Mary, and you've done lots of talk before about the chakras. And it's exactly the same thing, because chakras is part of this system as well from India. It's not something separate. So when we're looking at Vata dosha, that's when somebody's predominantly got more air and space elements within them. And this is when we get overstressed, it can lead on to anxiety. And we can say, you know, we're a bit away with the fairies because you keep zoning out, and a bit up in the clouds, up in the sky. So kind of this air and space, the thoughts are all moving rapidly like the wind. Whereas actually, to calm the stress down, we need to drop right down and think more about the earth and the water elements. So we're coming more into the physical world, the physical body, the things we can see, the things we can touch. And it's really about grounding down and slowing down to find more balance. Because Ayurveda, while some of it can sound a little bit complicated, in essence, it's really about working with opposites.
Right. So the opposite to where you're at. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So if you're feeling too hot-headed, you want to cool down.
Right. Oh, okay.
That's angry and irritable. So yeah, thinking about coming out of the fight and flight response, we can think about different Vata practices. Would it be helpful if I did a little summary of what that might look like?
Definitely, because you might be speaking a new language for some people, yeah. Including me.
Cool. So in order to balance Vata, Okay, if we're talking about foods, we're thinking about eating more sweet, sour, and salty foods. When it
And
comes
which one's better? Is that the air one?
to air and space, yeah.
That's really interesting. Okay.
These kind of foods have more earth and water qualities about them. So if we think about a sweet potato or a parsnip that's from the ground, from the earth, that's got sweetness within it. And then thinking about movements, it'd be really slowing down, because I think we're often stressed because we think we haven't got enough time. We're always rushing around. And probably the last thing you feel like doing is taking 20 minutes out your day to do some breathing or some slow yoga. But actually, it's probably going to make you feel a lot better and be able to move through your day in a more harmonious way.
Mm.
And then when we think about other aspects like nature, it's okay, we're going to go for a walk in nature, but are we going to tick that off the to-do list and hurry around the block in 10 minutes? Or are we going to go for a walk and really feel our feet as we move across the ground, even if we've got shoes on? Are we going to take a moment to pause and notice what we can see, what we can hear? So often it's not necessarily changing what we're doing all the time. It might just be how we're going about doing things.
And that, I think, is really useful, because exactly that, Sam, when someone's so busy or so, and I'm the same, it's how do we tweak what you're already doing so that it's supporting you more, rather than giving you this whole new regime, which is going to, I love it. Okay. So that's that, yeah, I'm definitely better.
And then there's other things that could be incorporated.
Mm.
I think routines really help to do that. I think when we're feeling stressed, things can just seem really bitty and overwhelming. Whereas actually, when we've got the stability of routines in place, as boring as that might sound, it helps us to feel safe and secure. The body and the mind kind of know what's going to happen. There's some familiar things where it can be like, oh yeah, this is just what happens today. I can just relax. This is what I do. A little bit like brushing our teeth. Maybe it's you brush your teeth and you just do a simple movement, but it's slow and with your breath. And then at night time, I think it can be great watching Netflix till late and things, but actually, have we just got a little routine to help us to wind down in the evening, where we've got the lights dimmed, where maybe we've got a nice herbal tea that's going to support us? Maybe we're just going to do a little face massage or a foot massage, thinking about moving down out of the mind into the furthest part away from us, that's our feet. Simply rubbing in and doing some little circles with something like a sesame oil that's balancing for vata at night time can just help to take that pause from the stimulation that's always coming into us. And that, I think, actually, the Ayurveda calls it impressions. Actually, the sights and sounds that we're taking in all of the time, if we're a little bit more conscious of those, that can actually have a really profound effect on our mental well-being. Because if we think about, if we were listening to some rap music that's swearing this and that going on, think, how do I feel?
Mm-hmm.
I know if I'm driving in the car to something like that, I start driving faster and turn into more of a maniac.
Yeah.
So, I think it's being conscious of the choices and the things that we're doing every day that are either stressing us out more or actually helping us to feel a little bit calmer. So when we've got those routines in place and things are happening day to day that are helping to balance us and calm us down, then that's when we can really feel the difference, rather than, oh, I'm going to have a bath once a month, or I'm going to go for a massage, which is certainly powerful. I do massages, you do massage, and absolutely rate them. But actually doing that and then thinking, oh, I'm going to be de-stressed for another month till I come for my appointment, is probably not enough. Or I hear people say, oh, bought this new room spray or some flip-flops that have got acupressure points on, and I feel like, oh, if I do that for 10 minutes in the evening, I'm going to have a great night's sleep, but they change nothing else about their lifestyle. Often it's, you know, it's just not enough. There's not a quick fix. It's just about making lots of small changes that add up to then bring us back to a place of more balance, if that made sense.
Oh, it does. And you know, obviously Sam's business is called Beautifully Balanced, so of course. But what I found really fascinating about this, and it shouldn't surprise me, and I almost feel this has just been a little taster session, so we'll have a discussion off air, because I know, as I say, you've got to go and see a client after this, that I almost feel we want to know a little bit more. Because I tell you what's really resonating with me as you're speaking, Sam, is you haven't said one thing that we haven't shared, you know, in a workshop or in a talk or whatever, but to also understand that, and this is the whole thing, isn't it, that some of these practices, some of these little tweaks and lifestyle changes that we're inviting people to make have been thoughts and ideas that have been around for thousands and thousands of years, but somehow we become so disconnected from them that they're almost like a revelation again. And it's like, oh, you know, let's have a nourishing and calming bedtime routine. You know, let's try and balance this with that. So I'm finding that all really, really fascinating. So as I said, being really mindful, because I think this has really just been a taster and an introduction to what you're saying. If someone's listening and a bit like me, they've already gone, oh, this sounds really interesting and I would like to know more. How do you work with people? How, if they came to you and said, right, I need some Ayurveda in my life?
So I work with people one-to-one. So that could be a one-off 90-minute consultation where there's quite an in-depth form that the person fills in. So that helps me to build up a picture of their health concerns, previous issues that they might have had, currently where they're at, gaining a bit of an insight. There's questions like, what's your favourite climate? Because that can give an insight as to whether somebody prefers hot and cold things, what helps them to feel good. So there's the consultation form and a food diary that's filled in. That comes through to me around a week beforehand, so that I've got plenty of time to have a look through. Then they've got the 90-minute Zoom. So sit down, really get clear on what the person wants to improve, what the priorities are, and then based on that, thinking, okay, what's realistic for the person and their lifestyle and where they're at in front of me to implement, and things that they're going to enjoy that's going to start to bring them closer towards feeling the way that they want to. And I think just having that step by step, or a short list, I guess, for somebody to do based on the knowledge that I've got and the founding principles of Ayurveda, is helpful when someone's overwhelmed and they're not really quite sure where to start. Then I do have a 12-week program as well, which is much more of an investment. So that's really for people who are like, okay, I'm fed up with things as they are. I've really reached a point where I need to make some big transformations, and I want that to happen at a quicker pace than doing it by myself. Then that's more of a weekly thing where we're looking to really make the changes. So in 3 months' time, you're feeling significantly different in terms of the symptoms that you might be experiencing. I mean, I do tend to focus on people with stress and anxiety, but I also work with people with a number of different issues as well. And often, well, pretty much always, there's always underlying conditions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, one of the biggest benefits is exactly, you know, when we all understand the pressure the medical system is under, but to have, you know, I offer, you know, something similar, but, you know, to have someone for 90 minutes fully listening to your whole sort of holistic, listening, seeing the patterns, bringing in their knowledge and wisdom, exploring with you what you can, that almost in itself is priceless, isn't it? I think that is such a gift. And definitely, I think as we come to the end of the school holidays, there'll be some mums who have like had the most amazing time, and there'll be others who are feeling frazzled, overwrought, stressed, and then it's back into new school term. Maybe everyone will have gone up a year or starting school. So a really beautiful back to school gift for yourself is to book in, and I will put all of Sam's details below. So I'm not going to hold Sam up any longer because I'm super intrigued now as well. So I definitely want to have another conversation if that's possible. So I'll put all of Sam's details below. So if anyone's sat here thinking, wow, this just sounds exactly what I'm looking for, you can go directly through to Sam. So if there was one final word before you go, if there was anything you would want to say to somebody, is like, this is sort of like your top tip or the thing you tell most people, what would it be?
I think it would be to become more in tune with your breathing. Often if we're stressed, we're breathing up in the chest. So if we get into a pattern of doing that, if we think about when we're panicked, we're breathing more rapidly, that changes how we feel. So actually by breathing that way, we're automatically going to feel more stressed. So if we can breathe a little deeper down into the stomach, then that would be a really powerful change. And I think the breath's communicating with us all the time. It might be interesting for the people watching this to notice, actually, is there any points during the day where they actually hold their breath, and what tension is being created in that moment. So the breath is something that I work with a lot as well. And I think it's a really powerful tool to reduce stress, transform how we feel in a matter of seconds, and change the physiology in the body and the mind.
On that note, thank you so much for this really quick insight. It's definitely piqued my interest, so I'm sure it has for anyone that's listening. So please leave any comments below if you'd like me to get Sam to come back again and do some more talking. I might do it just for myself, but other than that, thank you for finding this sort of 25 minutes to gift us with your insights and your wisdom so that we can all go out and live more beautifully balanced lives.
Well, lovely. Thanks ever so much for the invite, Mary. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to part 2 hopefully soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sam.